Hello and welcome. It's that time. While people are coming in, I'm going to pull up the last answer. So last night, I read the story, The Last Question, which actually comes after the last answer, but I was dumb. I didn't realize what I was doing. And I read the sequel after the prequel, but that's okay. It's totally okay. I'm going to pull it up. It's going to be great. If I could just work my computer. Gosh, I hope people come in. It's Friday. Maybe no one will. Welcome. Okay, we've got some people. I'm going to start reading The Last Answer by Isaac Asimov. Welcome. So last night I read The Last Question by Isaac Asimov, which actually comes after The Last Answer, but that's okay. So tonight I'm going to read The Last Answer. All right, so Murray Templeton was 45 years old, in the prime of life, and with all parts of his body in perfect working order, except for certain key portions of his coronary arteries. But that was enough. The pain had come suddenly, had mounted to an unbearable peak, and had then ebbed steadily. He could feel his breath slowing and a kind of gathering peace washing over him. Modesto says hi. Hi, Modesto. There is no pleasure like the absence of pain. Immediately after pain, Murray felt an almost giddy lightness, as though he were lifting in the air and hovering. He opened his eyes and noted with distant amusement that the others in the room were still agitated. He had been in the laboratory when the pain had struck, quite without warning, and when he had staggered, he had heard surprised outcries from the others before everything vanished into overwhelming agony. Cat24 says hi. Hi, Cat. Now with the pain gone, the others were still hovering, still anxious, still gathered about his fallen body, which, he suddenly realized, he was looking down on. He was down there, sprawled, face contorted. He was up here, at peace, and watching. He thought, miracle of miracles, the life after life nuts were right. And although that was a humiliating way for an atheistic physicist to die, he felt only the mildest surprise, and no alteration of the peace in which he was immersed. He thought, there should be some angel or something coming for me. The earthly scene was fading. Darkness was invading his consciousness, and off in a distance, as a last glimmer of sight, there was a figure of light, vaguely human in form and radiating warmth. Murray thought, what a joke on me. I'm going to heaven. Even as he thought that, the light faded, but the warmth remained. There was no lessening of the peace, even though in all the universe only he remained, and the voice. The voice said, I have done this so often, and yet I still have the capacity to be pleased at success. It was in Murray's mind to say something, but he was not conscious of possessing a mouth, tongue, or vocal cords. Nevertheless, tried to make a sound. He tried, mouthlessly, to hum words or breathe them or just push them out by a contraction of something. And they came out. He heard his own voice, quite recognizable, and his own words, infinitely clear. Murray said, Is this heaven? The voice said, This is no place as you understand place. Murray was embarrassed, but the next question had to be asked. Pardon me if I sound like a jackass, but are you God? Without changing intonation or in any way marring the perfection of the sound, the voice managed to sound amused. It is strange that I am always asked that in, of course, an infinite number of ways. There is no answer I can give that you would comprehend. I am, which is all that I can say significantly, and you may cover that with any word or concept you please. Marie said, And what am I? A soul? Or am I only personified existence too? He tried not to sound sarcastic, but it seemed to him that he had failed. He thought then, fleetingly, of adding a Your Grace or Holy One or something to counteract the sarcasm, and could not bring himself to do so, even though, for the first time in his existence, he speculated on the possibility of being punished for his insolence. Or sin? With hell? And what might that be like? The voice did not sound offended. You are easy to explain, even to you. You may call yourself a soul if that pleases you, but what you are is a nexus of electromagnetic forces, so arranged that all the interconnections and interrelationships are exactly imitative of those of your brain in your universe existence, down to the smallest detail. Therefore, you have your capacity for thought, your memories, your personality. It still seems to you that you are you. Murray found himself incredulous. You mean the essence of my brain was permanent? Not at all. There is nothing about you that is permanent except what I choose to make so. I formed a nexus. I constructed it while you had physical existence and adjusted it to the moment when the existence failed. The voice seemed distinctly pleased with itself and went on after a moment's pause. An intricate but entirely precise construction. I could, of course, do it for every human being on your world, but I'm pleased that I do not. There is pleasure in the selection. You choose very few then. Very few. And what happens to the rest? Oblivion? Oh, of course, you imagine a hell. Murray would have flushed if he had the capacity to do so. He said, I do not. It is spoken of. Still, I would have scarcely thought I was virtuous enough to have attracted your attention as one of the elect. Word vomitorium is sausage factory, Mike. Yeah, I explained it yesterday. So, I mentioned that I started watching a content creator who's emetophobic, which means phobic of throwing up. And so I didn't want a channel title that would trigger emetophobic people to remember vomiting. So I've been thinking of changing the title of the channel to Sausage Factory for some time. So I changed it. That's the story. It's like, here we are. We're watching this sausage get made because I'm still figuring myself out. Anyway, let's get on with the story. Still, I would have scarcely thought I was virtuous enough to have attracted your attention as one of the elect. Virtuous? Ah, I see what you mean. It is troublesome to have to force my thinking small enough to permeate yours. No, I have chosen for you your capacity for thought, as I choose others, in quadrillions, from all the intelligent species of the universe. Murray found himself suddenly curious, the habit of a lifetime. He said, Do you choose them all yourself, or are there others like you? For a fleeting moment, Murray thought there was an impatient reaction to that, but when the voice came, it was unmoved. Whether or not there are others is irrelevant to you. The universe is mine and mine alone. It is my invention, my construction, intended for my purpose alone. And yet with quadrillions of nexi you have formed, you spend time with me? Am I that important? The voice said, You are not important at all. I'm also with others in a way to which your perception would seem simultaneous. And yet you are one. Again, amusement. The voice said, You seek to trap me in an inconsistency. If you were an amoeba who could consider individuality only in connection with single cells, and if you were to ask a sperm whale made up of 30 quadrillion cells whether it was one or many, how could the sperm whale answer in a way that would be comprehensible to the amoeba? Murray said dryly, I'll think about it. It may become comprehensible. Exactly. That is your function. You will think. To what end? I already know everything, I suppose. The voice said, even if I knew everything, I could not know that I know everything. Murray said, that sounds a bit of Eastern philosophy, something that sounds profound precisely because it has no meaning. The voice said, you have promise. You answer my paradox with a paradox, except that mine is not a paradox. Consider, I have existed eternally. But what does that mean? It means I cannot remember having come into existence. If I could, I would not have existed eternally. If I cannot remember having come into existence, then there is at least one thing, the nature of my coming into existence that I do not know. Then too, although what I know is infinite, it is also true that what there is to know is infinite. And how can I be sure that both infinites are equal? The infinity of potential knowledge may be infinitely greater than the infinity of my actual knowledge. Here is a simple example. If I knew every one of the even integers, I would know an infinite number of items, and yet I would still not know a single odd integer. Murray said, but the odd integers can be derived. If you divide every even integer in the entire infinite series by 2, you will get another infinite series which will contain within it the infinite series of odd integers. The voice said, you have the idea. I'm pleased. It will be your task to find other such ways, far more difficult ones, from the known to the not yet known. You have your memories. You will remember all the data you have ever collected or learned, or that you will have to deduce from that data. If necessary, you will be allowed to learn what additional data you will consider relevant to the problems you set yourself. And he said, could you not do that all for yourself? The voice said, I can, but it's more interesting this way. I constructed the universe in order to have more facts to deal with. I inserted the uncertainty principle, entropy, and other randomization factors to make the whole not instantly obvious. It has worked well, for it has amused me throughout this entire existence. I then allowed complexities that produced first life and then intelligence, and use it as a source for a research team, not because I need the aid, but because it would introduce a new random factor. I found I could not predict the next interesting piece of knowledge gained, where it would come from, by what means derived. Murray said, does that ever happen? Certainly. A century doesn't pass in which some interesting item doesn't appear somewhere. Something that you could have thought of yourself, but had not done so yet? Yes, Murray said. Do you actually think there's a chance of my obliging you in this manner? In the next century? Virtually none. In the long run, though, your success is certain, since you will be engaged eternally. Murray said, I will be thinking through eternity? Forever? Yes. To what end? I have told you, to find new knowledge. But beyond that, for what purpose am I to find new knowledge? It was what you did in your universe-bound life. What was its purpose then? Murray said, to gain new knowledge that only I could gain, to receive the praise of my fellows, to feel the satisfaction of accomplishment, knowing that I had only a short time allotted me for the purpose. Now I would gain only what you could gain yourself if you wished to take a small bit of trouble. You cannot praise me. You can only be amused, and there is no credit or satisfaction in accomplishment when I have all eternity to do it in. The voice said, and you do not find thought and discovery worthwhile in and of itself? You do not find it requiring no further purpose? For a finite time, yes, not for all eternity. I see your point. Nevertheless, you have no choice. You say I am to think. You cannot make me do so. The voice said, I do not wish to constrain you directly. I will not need to. Since you can do nothing but think, you will think. You do not know how not to think. Then I will give myself a goal. I will invent a purpose. The voice said tolerantly, that you certainly can do. I have already found a purpose. May I know what it is? You know already. I know we are not speaking in the ordinary fashion. You adjust my nexus in such a way that I believe I hear you and I believe I speak, but you transfer thoughts to me and from me directly. And when my nexus changes with my thoughts, you are at once aware of them. You don't need my voluntary transmission. The voice said, you are surprisingly correct. I am pleased. But it also pleases me to have you tell me your thoughts voluntarily. Then I will tell you. The purpose of my thinking will be to discover a way to disrupt this nexus of me that you have created. I don't want to think for no purpose but to amuse you. All my thinking will be directed toward ending the Nexus. That would amuse me. The voice said, I have no objection to that. Even concentrated thought on ending your own existence may, in spite of you, come up with something new and interesting. And of course, if you succeed in this suicide attempt, you will have accomplished nothing, for I would instantly reconstruct you, and in such a way as to make your method of suicide impossible. And if you found another and still more subtle fashion of disrupting yourself, I would reconstruct you with that possibility eliminated, and so on. It could be an interesting game, but you will nevertheless exist eternally. It is my will. Murray felt a quaver, but the words came out a perfect calm. Am I in hell then, after all? You have implied there is none, but if this were hell, you would lie to us as part of the game of hell. The voice said, in that case, of what use is it to assure you that you are not in hell? Nevertheless, I assure you, there is neither heaven nor hell. There is only myself. Which I think is the funniest line ever. There is neither heaven or hell. There's only myself. Murray said, consider then that my thoughts may be useless to you. If I came up with nothing useful, will it not be worth your while to disassemble me and take no further trouble with me? As a reward, you want nirvana as the prize of failure, and you intend to assure me of failure? There is no bargain there. You will not fail. With all eternity before you, you cannot avoid having at least one interesting thought, however you try against it. Then I will create another future for myself, another purpose for myself. I won't destroy myself. I'll set as my goal the humiliation of you. I will think of something you have not only never thought, but could never think of. I will think of the last answer, beyond which there is no knowledge further. The voice said, you do not understand the nature of the infinite. I'm just going to stop for a second because one of my favorite lines from My Heart Huckabees is, you don't understand my infinite nature, which is so close to this. Okay, never mind. Anyway, there may be things I have not yet troubled to know. There cannot be anything I cannot know. Murray said thoughtfully, you cannot know your beginning. You have said so. Therefore, you cannot know your end. Very well then, that will be my purpose, and that will be the last answer. I will not destroy myself, I will destroy you, if you do not destroy me first. The voice said, you come to that in rather less than average time. I would have thought it would have taken you longer. There is not one of those I have with me in this existence of perfect and eternal thought that does not have the ambition of destroying me. It cannot be done. Murray said, I have all eternity to think of a way of destroying you. The voice said equably, then try to think of it. And it was gone. But Murray had his purpose now and was content. For what could any entity, conscious of eternal existence, want but an end? For what else had the voice been searching for countless billions of years? And for what other reason had intelligence been created, and certain specimens salvaged and put to work, but to aid in such a great search? And Murray intended that it would be he, and he alone, who would succeed. Carefully, and with the thrill of purpose, Murray began to think. He had plenty of time. And that is that story. It's Friday. It looks like, is it just Brendan and Ulysses that are here? How's it going, dudes? Matthew Sandel. We've got a couple people. How's it going, dudes? Got your hot chocolate? It's chill time. That was my story I picked out. I actually like the last question better than the last answer. But that's okay. I can always pull up more stories. What are we talking about tonight? Is there pizza in space? I would really hope so. Because if you're gonna spend $100,000 on a SpaceX spaceship ride to space with Elon Musk, if there's no pizza, what is the entire effing point? The story was pretty insightful. I don't know. I feel like it's silly. It's the kind of theoretical argument that I would have as a teenager with people around me that I was annoyed of. So you're just trying to prove somebody wrong just because that's all you have to do. I don't know. That's the vibe of that story. But there's something about that annoying vibe I really enjoy. It's like, have you ever been in that situation where you just are so annoyed of somebody, all you can do is argue? Like, that was basically all I did. Have I read I, Robot? Yeah, that was a long time ago. I don't read a ton of Isaac Asimov stories because they can be very dry. Did you guys hear about the hotel in space they're planning on making an opening in 2027? No, I'm so sad. Let me see. Hotel in space. Is this real? Space hotel scheduled to open in 2025. I can't believe this is real. What a world. What a world we live in. Okay, CNN says, waking up in chic hotel room with a view of the solar system could be the future of travel. Oh my gosh. Premiered by Californian company, the Gateway Foundation. The Von Braun Station. Why would anybody do this? Okay. I used to want to go to space, but then I read about, like, okay, something that people in the USS, like the space station, have to deal with is like, okay, when you go in space for longer than like a month, you end up with like, what do they call it? Like space sickness or something. Like you come back down from being in zero gravity and like, okay, what happens when you're in space for long periods of time is like your circulatory system is used to gravity. So when there's no gravity, you start like your heart becomes weaker, and then blood, like your veins in your ankles and feet and calves are stronger than your veins in like your head, because your legs have to pump blood back up and gravity usually pulls the blood in your head down. So like what happens when you return from space is you end up having like crazy blood pooling in your legs, and you have massive headaches and nausea when you come back from the space station. And when I learned about this, it like terrified me because I've always wanted to go into space, and it was like, wow, we really are not meant to be in space for long periods of time. So like I don't know like how they're gonna pull off this like space hotel, but they really need to like have artificial gravity. Like in a good sci-fi movie, like I think Interstellar had this. Like they had this like world they created with like the rotating. It was like a cylinder, like a tube world, and there was an inner cylinder that rotated, creating artificial gravity. So like I don't know how we're gonna have a space hotel unless there's artificial gravity, like making sure our circulatory systems don't atrophy. Because, like, dude, you're stuck if your circulatory system weakens. It's so hard to believe, especially after that Tesla Cybertruck explosion killed a person a couple days ago. Like, oh my God. Have you seen... Oh, wait. I gotta find my favorite meme GIF. You've probably seen it, but, Cyber... Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I hope I can find... I can't find this stupid GIF. Like, have you seen the GIF where it's Elon Musk shirtless? And they draw the outline of his torso, and it's the same, like, shape as the Cybertruck, and it's really funny. Let me see. I don't know if I'm ever gonna find it because I'm just, like, that bad. But yeah, do we really need to go into space? We should just send all the billionaires into space and let their circulatory systems atrophy so they can't come back down to Earth. Let's just send them up there and not tell them about like space sickness. How about that? See, guys, this is actually a win for us. Because if we send all the billionaires into space and they don't know about space sickness, they're going to suffer when they come back. They'll be bedridden. Sometimes people get bedridden for like months trying to recover from being in space. Weren't there people stranded in the International Space Station? That happened like last year, I think. You have nothing against billionaires. A good amount of people have been found dead from decompression failures upon arrival. Well, this is a big opportunity for the Darwin Awards, and we should encourage it. Okay, so back in 2024, 2 people got stuck in the International Space Station, and I think SpaceX sent up a capsule to bring them back. There was like a rescue mission, but I don't know how long they were there. Like, how did they recover? It looks like, okay, people are only supposed to spend like 6 months. No, I'm reading this article. It could be wrong. What were their names? Oh, the capsule that'll bring them home next year. Dude, they're gonna have a really rough time recovering because you're not supposed to spend like more than 9 months in space. That's so sad. I hope they survive. Like, that's gonna be rough. Oh my God, that's so rough. That's like the scariest thing I've ever heard. That's like, I don't know, like the subway collapsing was scarier, but like this is also very scary. Like how isolating, and like what if they run out of food, or like, I don't know. I'm gonna look this up. Um, oh, they were only supposed to be there a week. And they were stuck in space. They're gonna be stuck in space for like 8 months. Dude, okay, I'm gonna look this up. Nick Hague, Alexander Gorbanov. I know I've butchered both of those names. Freezing on Everest is up there. Okay, the thing about freezing to death is like, okay, that sucks. And like hypothermia is no joke, but if you freeze to death, I imagine it's like going to sleep. Like, and also if you end up frozen, well, it's complicated because it slows down your circulatory system. Sometimes it's easier to save you after your circulatory system stops, but then not if you've got like massive amounts of frostbite. So like, I don't know. I'm not a scientician or anything. I don't know the answers. But like, I don't know, man. I can't believe, like, seriously though, they were supposed to be in space for like a week. How many supplies did they get sent up with? But then I heard this story. Okay, there's a story I will never forget where like there was a woman that was sent into the space station, and NASA gave her like 500 tampons for like a month-long trip, and like asked her if it was enough. So maybe they just like insanely oversent resources. Like maybe they just sent them with way more resources than they need. I don't know. That's like such a nightmarish worst case scenario happening. Like how did they end up getting stuck for months and months? Like what went wrong that they got stuck? Oh, there was a rocket failure. I guess like they had a rocket, but their rocket they had failed. That's gnarly. That is rough. What are your deep dark fears? Like, oh man. Oh, that one's gonna sit with me for a while. Yeah. feel like I don't read any news anymore. So like I used to read news all the time, but a lot of news outlets got like monetized, so you have to pay to read any articles. And then for a while I was getting my news on TikTok. So like I didn't read any news and I was a lot happier. But then all of a sudden I heard about a bomb cyclone that happened to like Washington and Oregon and Northern California, and I was like, whoa, I can't believe that just happened. And like a whole bunch of hurricanes were like forming in the Atlantic also. I should probably make myself aware of what's going on. But it's been so nice being ignorant. Like, have you ever just overconsumed the news to a point where you're going insane? Like wow, there's so much bad shit going on in the world that I can't even function. Or like my brain is shutting down from all the sadness. Or like everything feels pointless because there's so much bullshit going on. But then like I stopped reading the news, I stopped consuming the news, and then there was like a detox period where like all the anxiety was like purging from my body. And now it's like, oh, okay, I can do stuff. I can now do stuff lightheartedly without like stressing. But like the news is still out there, I'm just not paying attention to it. So like, I don't know. No one's answering in the chat. It's just my rant time. I'm not the only one, right? Does anyone else just become non-functional when there's too much bad news? I can't be the only one. Where do people even read their news now? So I used to do Reddit and Stumble Upon, but like Reddit, like as I got older, like the impatience with like the broiness of Reddit like really wore on me. And like I used to use Stumble Upon, but I think it's defunct now. Like I don't think that it even exists anymore. And I never liked any other randomization like tools. I don't know. Where do people read their news? And then like I don't have TV, and I'm like sick of the way TV presents news. Like where do you read things? There's the Atlantic, but they're all pay article now. Where do people read the news? I hope someone tells me. Please leave it in the chat. No one's responding. I must know. You're legally obligated to tell me where you read news. I feel like people don't post anything controversial on Facebook anymore, or maybe not my group that I follow. I used to get a bunch of news from like smart people I knew posting stuff. It was very stimulating. Like I feel like the period between 2008 and 2013, I got like tons of news and info. But now I feel like it's a dead zone. Like, and I read that like there's a rise of conservatism on the internet, which like a lot of spaces are becoming conservative. Which like it is what it is, but like I'm struggling to find news. Nobody's answering. I bet Brendan is like, I ain't gonna touch this either. I'm not gonna comment on any of this. But I have been happier. But then there's like the gnawing feeling of like, there's things I don't know. There are things going on that I have no knowledge of. I know, bud. My buddy over here doesn't watch the news and he's probably happy as a clam. Have I really run out of steam this quickly? I know, bud. I should just let my friend come and talk to you. He's got more to say than I do tonight. Wow. pain of existence. He's like, don't mock me. I'm not, bud. Wah. Wah. I read nothing, you guys. Am I done? I'm done early. I'm done early. I'm over it. I'm over all you guys. I got nothing. We're done after half an hour. I'm over it. There's no comments. Got nothing to go on. It's done. We could ask Chat GPT things. I'm gonna ask Chat GPT. That's what I should do. ChatGPT says, finding unbiased news sources can be challenging, but here are reputable outlets to strategies to access news that strive for impartiality. Here are some options. NPR, PBS, Reuters. Oh, I forgot about Reuters. Oh, BBC. Oh, I love BBC. Michelle rediscovering all of her favorite internet websites. Someone's saying that chat might have froze. I might get out and start over again. Rejoin me in like a second. I'm gonna restart. And okay, I'll be right back.